The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is
Day 3 of the Jasiel Correia trial.
Day 3 of the big trial. Let's go to Admiral COVID so we can get down to some serious trial business.
Okay. As of yesterday, we have 642,036 total cases. New cases is 825. Total deaths is 17,215. New deaths is 4. Bristol County total is 64,349. The numbers are looking good. So that's a good thing. Yeah. And this weekend, the city will again be offering vaccinations at the Niagara Maplewood Senior Center on Tucker Street on Friday, and on Saturday and Sunday at the Mary L. Fonska School on Wall Street. It's 10 to 5 on Friday, noon to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. Walk-ins are accepted.
Yes. The push toward herd immunity continues. And now there's vaccine resistance and now you got some of the lunatics on mainstream left-wing media actually think they actually articulated that people who don't want to get the vaccine should be charged with a felony. Reckless endangerment. It's like the only people you're endangering yourself. Go get the vaccine. I mean, there's no longer do we have any inalienable rights, and the fact is that now they're going to make everything mandatory. I heard there was a discussion to make it mandatory in the military that they get a shot, and unfortunately, in the military, they're going to have to take it, whether they want to take it or not, because you got your shot record in the military, and you got to take the shots they tell you to take. Right. Otherwise, they throw you out. So, but maybe some people feel adamant enough, but this is crazy. I mean, look, people get immunity. You get the vaccine. You take the chance. If you don't want to take it, you take a chance of getting COVID and getting a natural immunity or dying. And it's not going to bother the people with the vaccine because we've taken the vaccine. So, but it's just crazy when they start talking about mandating everything. This has become like Nazi Germany and Red China is now, and North Korea. They're going to tell you what you've got to do for your own good. Well, it's not what America was based on. So, but let's get into the biggie, the trial, the topic of all the conversations in Fall River.
Before we go there, we have to announce that yesterday, election season has opened in Fall River. Election season opened in Fall River yesterday. Yeah. And 2 candidates came out and took out papers. That being Paul Coogan and Collin Dias. Paul Coogan for mayor, Collin Dias for school committee. So already the feet are hitting the floor and they're running. So we'll see how many more people come out and pull papers, and we'll keep you apprised here on our show so that you know who to support and who not to support. And we'll talk about who we think we should support. So remember, keep tuned in because we're going to be there for you. And now on to the trial.
But on that note, the Coogan pulling papers immediately didn't surprise anybody because after we had that rather lively meeting that we discussed on the show, I was told that as soon as he walked out the front door, he was met by the media who were following him around all day. So he's been campaigning for re-election since the day he got in. So, all right, let's get to the trial, a topic of everybody's conversation, talk shows, and everybody's got an opinion. So, But it's quite interesting, and you and I have attended both days already, and we will be on as soon as the show's over.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the thing that bothers me about this trial is not what's going on in the trial. It's the viewers, the people who are actually watching. I'm seeing tons of city employees logged in watching this trial. How can they do that while they're working at City Hall? How can they do that while they're working at Government Center? We're paying them to watch this trial? So I'm telling you, that's not acceptable. And I'm going to give you the nom de plume of one of the employees, Snoopy8272. That is a city employee who changed their name when they initially were logged in under their city employee name, their actual name, and we noticed it. And they've now changed their name. Now, I've seen Mary Sahadi in there, but she's on vacation, I believe, in Florida for her birthday week. But I've seen other employees in there. And are we paying you to watch the trial, or are we paying you to do a job? Please tell me. I think that's important.
Well, is she on vacation? Because we saw her on one day. She disappeared, and she hasn't been on since. To my knowledge, I didn't see her on yesterday. Did you?
No, she was kayaking yesterday with her dog.
Oh, so you keep track of her? Okay, I don't. Yeah,
she posted pictures of her and her dog kayaking, I think, with her husband. So on Facebook, so it was rather interesting. Hey,
yes,
let her enjoy her vacation time. Let her enjoy vacation time. I guess she must get 10 weeks vacation or something.
Listen, it's wonderful to be a city official and get automatic pay raises and everything. Then you can have a nice house in Florida with a swimming pool. You can go kayaking and play opera music to your dog. So while people in Fall River are scratching their butts trying to get 2 nickels to rub together so they can make their mortgage or pay their rent. But then again, look, that's the way it is all over. All the rich congressmen and senators are running around telling you what to do, what not to do, while they're making millions and millions of dollars. So, but
how does that song go again? How does that song go again? Swimming pools, movie stars.
That's right. Yeah. But let them eat cake is the operative word for the elitists in Fall River. Let them eat cake, preferably Twinkies. But that's it. But the trial's been very interesting, CJ. I mean, I find it. The opening statements reflected the difference. But what's even more interesting is listening to the discussions of the trial. And the perspectives from the Jasiel supporters versus the not the Jasiel people who don't support Jasiel, and people who are trying to look at the trial objectively. There's all kinds of opinions flying around. Matter of fact, somebody told me that there are a lot of Jasiel supporters calling Will Flanagan, and Will Flanagan, of course, is a supporter. He loves Reddington because that was his lawyer. What he was saying, he was doing such a great job and blah, blah, blah. And that's all subjective. But the people who are pro Jasiel is, saying it's, he's doing a great job, and other people are saying, we know that I believe Alan Zarek said that his mother was crying yesterday at some point in time during the trial, and he looked visibly rattled, and so everything is in the eyes of the beholder. But the reality is, this is what makes it really great to talk about, because this is all talk. The only people that matter in this entire equation is the jury, and we know how juries are. And that's what's fascinating about our system. People say, justice. And it's a process that we use supposedly to get justice. But anybody with a half a brain realizes that this isn't true justice, because the decision is made subjectively by 12 people. So the reality is, you ever see that TV show Bull?
Yes.
CJ?
Yes, I have. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And it's a guy that's a trial scientist, and he picks people for a jury that will follow a particular narrative presented by the defense attorney. Right. And the reality is that's the way things go, because look, I mean, anybody that doesn't believe OJ was guilty, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen so much evidence against anybody in my life, but then you get the theatrics. You also get what happens with people who are high profile. They give people who are high profile. Look, if you put Tom Brady on trial for murdering half the country, he'd get off.
Well,
because he's Tom Brady.
Aaron Hernandez didn't.
Well, Aaron Hernandez, but Aaron Hernandez wasn't Tom Brady. The thing was that Aaron Hernandez was a former gang member. He was, he was a different, not clean cut Tom, but people do not, unfortunately, and rarely, if you just a Joe Schmo, they might actually look at the evidence objectively. But it's a subjective decision, and people are going to do that. So is he going to be found guilty based on the evidence? I'm not sure. I'm truly not sure, because it's going to be the jury, not the radio talk show or our show or anybody's show, frankly, or anybody's opinion, because their opinion doesn't count. It's going to be the jurors. And it's always interesting to watch a trial like this, to see the evidence presented and then formulate your opinion and then see if they can convince the jury. And that's what's really good. And people always forget that fact. The judge has reiterated that fact a few times during the trial already, that it is the jury. And everything's about presenting it to the jury in a clear way. So that's what really is it's really fascinating.
Well, what's interesting about this trial is the fact that, number one, this judge does not want to take any crap. All right. He's been very direct, very clean cut on what he wants. When an attorney, whether it be prosecution or defense, starts repeating the questions and starts beating up the witness or trying to tear down the witness by presenting the same question over and over and over again, the judge steps in and says, I've already spoken about this. The witness has already answered this question several times. Move on. I mean, he makes sure, because we don't need to hear it. But the witnesses that have been coming forward so far have all been investors. They're not anyone else yet. They haven't gotten into the public corruption part of the trial yet. But it's all been investors. And I heard a comment yesterday, which was funny, for the lack of a better expression, where they said, investing with Jasiel, it's like buying a lottery ticket. But investing usually is a lottery ticket. But it's true, because when you listen to what these people are talking about, Dr. David Cabaceres, who I know, he was my orthodontist. Dr. David Cabaceres, he gave $145,000, and I have a great deal of respect for Dr. Cabaceres, but where was your head? You gave $145,000, but the paperwork being presented to you kept saying $50,000. So what type of baloney is that? You must have something, you must have something about that going on, and that makes that would have tripped my trigger right away, saying something's going on here.
Yeah, well, I think they framed that pretty well in the trial, because he wrote another 18 checks, and they had it, but they weren't credited, or but they the prosecution presented a tremendous amount of actual evidence, and fundamentally, I guess Dr. Cabaceres' son was friendly with Jasiel, and Jasiel was taking him out and introducing him to girls and taking him to strip clubs, and that was part of the trial. And apparently he was he didn't have a lot of a talent for socialization. He was socially stunted. So I think that he, Dr. Cabaceras, being a dentist and not an investment banker or something, he let his heart go away, and he that's what the prosecution, he trusted him, because then Reddington, of course, said, well, why would you do that? But blah, blah, blah. And, see, the thing that's getting me about this, and this is obviously we all have our opinions, but what I notice is, and people can disagree with me, Reddington is not refuting. They're using the same excuse Jasiel did. He's using the same excuse. He's looking for loopholes. He's looking for technicalities. He's never denied Jasiel bought watches, Mercedes, all the stuff that the prosecution presented, and have evidence that he bought all this stuff. And he's basically saying, well, hey, look, Jasiel was a kid and he's bad at math. He's really bad at math. He had one guy say, was he really good? Was he good at math? Well, he wasn't really good at math. He was an idea guy. He's really bad at math. He was a young kid. And, I don't see anywhere here that prohibited him from blowing that money and using investor money for that, because he had to look good. He was trying to sell the app. He had to drive around in a Mercedes and wear a $12,000 watch and buy $1,000 shoes or something like that. So, I mean, their case is, hey, he spent it all, but really there's nothing there to prove he didn't have the right to spend it all. And that's where the case, I think, differs to me, because prosecution's saying there is a difference. And I think at one point in time with during the cross and the rebuttal after the cross, I guess Reddington made a point that there's nowhere in the first agreement with the $50,000 that said that you can't spend the money, and there's nowhere is it that said he couldn't draw a salary. But then the prosecution went back to a document that basically said that at the time there were 3 people that signed that document: Peranio, Jasiel, and Cabaceras. But there was a section in the document that said any expenditures had to be approved by all parties.
Right.
And both of those parties, Peranio and Cabaceras, said they didn't approve any of this stuff. So, but that's this part of it. But to me, the biggest part of this, and they haven't really got to it, they just touched on it, is the tax returns.
That's another portion of his trial.
When he gets to the tax returns, he's in trouble because, to me, if they could put Al Capone away after he killed half of Chicago and never got convicted of anything, but what did they put him away for? Taxes.
That's it.
You very rarely can get in front of a judge and beat the IRS on tax issues. So, but to me, we're still waiting. This is like the precursor. We're waiting for the big show when we come to the city and the extortion and all the other stuff and pay for play and stuff like that. That's when you're going to see, because this has been kind of like, okay, the investors and Cabaceras really isn't a businessman, but the other businessmen, that guy from Florida gave really good testimony. He actually corrected Reddington a couple of times on timelines and about things. So we're waiting with bated breath to get to the bribery and all the other stuff. At least
Mr. Eisenberg was a very good witness. I gotta say, he was a great witness for the prosecution. Carl Garcia yesterday, we saw how Carl Garcia invested. I mean, he did it in small bits and pieces. And then he gave personal loans to Jasiel to, quote unquote, clean up the books. Why do you have to clean up your books? I mean, that as a juror, that would have been the first thing that tripped my trigger and put that light bulb above my head to say, why do you need to clean up the books? Are you above board or not? Why do the books need to be cleaned up? That was a very, very damning statement to be made by Mr. Carl Garcia. And that's Carl Garcia of Carl's Collision. So, I mean, this is another one. And Mr. Peranio testified 2 days ago, who is a city employee, He even testified how he got the job and how he lost his job. He said he lost his job because he was having a relationship of some type with a city employee in the law department. We know who that is. And so that's why he had to leave. But then 2 years later, Jasiel hired him back and gave him a job as the director of cemeteries and trees. I mean, I know that if I was the mayor and I saw an employee that was being brought in because of his association with criminal activity, I would have to think twice about keeping that employee because it just doesn't work for me. All right? Because if they're being criminal in that respect, why can't they be criminal in like overtime sheets? Charged to the wrong department.
And also during that testimony, we heard a few people get kind of thrown under the bus.
Oh yeah, no question about
it. During I believe it was Perano's testimony, he talked about how a state representative, Alan Sylvia, brought some people into him, and then Fiola got into it. So we heard some names that are commonly bantered around. But see, stuff like that raises questions. We see how the inner workings. We know how people are brought into City Hall by counselors or friends of the mayor are brought into the fold to become city employees, or businesses are given a inside track because they're brought by someone into the city and introduced around. So then we have to look at, did that state rep get any campaign contributions after that particular, before, during, or after this was done? How does someone from the Fall River area get hooked up with somebody from the Cape to bring them in as a business person? You figure if they're a business person, they would go into the city hall, talk to the mayor, and say, I want to invest in Fall River. How do I do it? There's been a lot of talk for years about creating a streamlined plan for businesses who want to come to Fall River and invest in the city and pay taxes. But it never gets off the ground because that's all political rhetoric. Because the way business is done in Fall River is you gotta have a godfather to get through the process. And then you get permits that you shouldn't get and get a whole bunch of other things. And therein lies the problem. But it was really, really funny to hear that articulated under oath in a courtroom, bringing in names that they're really kind of unrelated to the case. They were just asides that he was talking about, tying all these things together, as you just said, how he ended up getting a job, losing a job, getting a job back. And this is the way politics is done. And so this is kind of like shining a light. And I'm sure there's going to be more testimony when we get to the other phases.
I agree. We heard the name of a Reddington beat up on a city employee, Mike Dion, and he kept slamming him because he was a FBI informant. Number one, I think that was the wrong thing to do. And now you have to ask yourself, is a mayor or is anyone else in the department going to trust this person? I understand what Reddington did. I understand what, he's trying to defend Jasiel, but, I know Mike Dion. He's a nice guy and he's above board. So if he was being approached by the FBI for information and it was illegal stuff that was being done illegally, I'm sure that Mike would have turned state's evidence for them. We'll find out more during the trial. We'll see if he's called or not. But it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to pan out, because there's no way people are going to know what's happening.
No, you're right. And the thing is that, there's a perspective. As I said, everything's subjective. and you're right. Reddington is being paid to give him the best defense he can. And it's tough to defend against. I mean, we saw in the opening statements how much paper, how much actual proof they have about everything they're saying. They have all of the checks that Cabas, but they've got everything down. And realistically, you haven't seen Reddington really introduce any evidence to the contrary. What he's trying to do is find a little technicality here. Didn't say it here. Does it say it in that paragraph? But is there anything in it that isn't said? But that's his job. Look, he's a defense attorney. And look, he's got a difficult case here because all the evidence is against Jasiel. There's no evidence. And there's actually been a de facto admission that he's done all this stuff at the beginning. He's not refuting the fact that he put $10,000 on a Mercedes. He's not refuting the fact that he bought a Batman watch or whatever the hell that is. It didn't look like Batman to me when they showed the picture of it, but I don't know, because of the bezel or something on the watch.
Yeah, it's because of the bezel.
It's called a Batman watch, so okay. But $12,000 watch approximately, and all the other stuff that he bought, and high-end perfume and trips to Vegas, trips to Florida. You don't see Reddington refuting that. What he's doing is his job, trying to find something to twist. I guess he's hoping they have a few jurors who have children who were rather played loose and fast when they were growing up, and really didn't have a lot of common sense and did things like that and blew money around. But that's whatever his strategy is. As I said, those jurors are individuals. They're going to make a subjective evaluation, not an objective. They're supposed to make an objective evaluation based on the evidence. But anybody who believes that, how many guilty people have we seen walk, and how many innocent people have we had convicted? So it's the best we can do. It's still the best judicial system in the world, in my opinion. But it is, we have to be frank. I mean, but the trial is revealing a lot about the way politics is done.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about it. And we're going to see more as this trial moves forward. Okay, I just got a notice from the courthouse. Just another warning, because people are forgetting to turn off their cameras and their mics. And also that there will be nobody admitted during a Zoom testimony. So try to find out when those Zoom testimonies are going to be, people, because it's going to be interesting. This is getting to be closer and closer as we're running out of time. But the one thing that Reddington kept doing was slamming that this was a salary. He had the right to a salary. He had the right to spend this money. It was to promote Snow Owl. He wasn't expected to do this for free. Yet Jasiel was telling, and every witness had said that he's not taking a salary. It's sweat equity. He's going to take equity in the business. And then the argument was that Jasiel was stepping down as CEO when he became mayor, and he would surrender his stocks and his position, but he never did. And the person that they were going to have take over, which was Staff Sheehan, never did, because he took over the books. So it's he never got the books from Jasiel. So that's the way it worked out.
And that's a difficult point, because remember, if Jasiel was taking a salary, it's the largest salary I ever saw, because it was 66% of all the money they took up.
Exactly. Well, we're out of time, and it's time for us to go to court.
That's right.
I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, wear a mask, and hold your politicians accountable, especially now. Have a great day.
Next court report is on Friday.